Hello, welcome back to another episode of A Little Atypical. My name is Elijah, you can call me Lay, and today we're talking all about consistency. So basically, I was inspired by the people in my life because a lot of people recently was talking either about like trying to develop a routine or reflecting on how they stay committed to things. At one point, my word of the year was consistency, so I was really focused on figuring out how to be consistent. With more time this year, I think I have a good amount of observations about consistency that I would love to share with y'all. So, segment 1, what is consistency? So, when I was doing my research, I was trying to find the best definition for consistency. So, when you look it up, it says conformity in the application of something. Typically, that is necessary for the sake of logic, accuracy, or fairness. Another defines it as someone who is consistent, always behaves in the same way, has the same attitudes towards people or things, or achieve the same level of success in something. One last definition was consistency is carrying out something the same way, or something staying the same as it's achieved in a particular way. So how I defy consistency, or what really put it into place for me, was looking at it as basically a constant commitment. One thing people need to understand with consistency is that they need to set their own personal intensity levels. I wanted to talk about this because there's a misconception between intensity and consistency. I saw this quote and it said, "It doesn't have to be extreme, just consistent." And I think seeing that quote was very important because many people believe that consistency is just a daily thing. And yes, daily is one way to be consistent, but depending on what else, you can say you want to do things 4 times a week, 3 times a week, once a week, once a month, depending on what the goal is. Those are ways that you still are consistent. While doing something daily can be a rewarding thing, I don't believe everyone should start with daily goals unless the thing they want to set as a goal is either something they're passionate with. Like sometimes when life gets busy, we just want to do things that we were always passionate about and bring that back into our lives. Or the thing we're doing, we need to have a strong enough why behind it in order to commit to it. So in my experience, the reason why people stop being consistent is either they have a perfectionist mindset, and when they don't do something at 100%, it then translates to what's the point of doing it in the first place, or to keep doing something. Also, if people don't like the outcome they're getting, again, that does fall in line with the perfectionist mindset. But also, if they're not seeing results and they haven't set milestones up in order for their brain to be able to keep seeing progress, so then they typically give up. This actually goes into my next segment, which is the importance of openness within consistency. I do think on some levels we need to be honest with ourselves. Like, we should be honest with ourselves pretty much all the time. But even the other day, I was kind of thinking about, why do people lie? Just a random thought. And when I researched questions about like lies and deception, a lot of times people lie. I'm not saying all the time, but a lot of times people lie in order to protect something, protect themselves, and protect themselves from feeling unsafe. And it's more of a survival tactic, apparently. Then I thought about this in the terms of ourselves, because especially since April, I was trying to think about ways to have a better relationship to self. A huge part of that and thinking about that was about trust, self-trust, and self-honesty. And that made me realize, like, this is not a topic that most people cover about self-deception and everything. I do think this is something that should be its own episode, but I couldn't talk about the need to be honest with yourself when trying to be consistent with something, because the fact is, many people, as I was mentioning before with the perfectionist mindset, is many people have to realize what affects them. Some people may have to be okay with the idea of not showing up 100% and knowing even if you do something imperfectly, it's still better that you showed up than quit altogether. Or if you do miss a day, that you're recommitting the following day instead of making days, weeks, and months go by and then wondering why in that area you haven't seen growth. There is a misconception with self-honesty, because I do think people think when they're honest with themselves, they have to be hard on themselves too. But I think a huge part about self-honesty is being able to have an open dialogue about things going on with you. How does it make you feel and everything like that? Because if you struggle with consistency, a lot of times there are other blockages that are not related to it, but just more so related to you and more of your way of being and your eternal self. When I had my goals at the beginning of the year, mostly with one, wanting to take care of my health, and two, being as creative as possible and committing to my dreams, I had to have a really honest conversation about if I'm doing all that I can. Because like I talked about in episode 26, while the body image issues is not always caused by lifestyle choices when you gain weight and everything, but I had to be honest with myself that for myself, a huge part of it was poor lifestyle choices, and also that I was putting everything else first, and be honest about what was my priorities at that point of time, and be honest with myself that what it showed me by not doing the thing that I want to do now, which was being more healthy. I think when I was the opposite way too, that it was also showing me that I wasn't important in both ways, regardless of me being smaller, me being larger. Both taught me the same thing, and that made me realize that I have to work on that deeper part of me in order to be more consistent with the things that I say are important to me. We don't have time as humans. It's not something we actually get back. Technically, it's something we can give, but it's not something we ever really get back. Being open with myself allowed me to be more consistent. I didn't need to be hard on myself. I didn't need to guilt myself for things that happened. But to have an open dialogue is a part of being able to commit. Commit to yourself, commit to consistency, commit to wanting better. And there's a way to do that without being harsh, because you don't have to blame yourself on the things you weren't really aware about, because as humans, we're meant to be kept so busy in our society that we don't even have time to really communicate with ourselves about these things. Openness and willingness to want to do better. Openness about how you got there. Openness about why you struggle. Like, is the thing really important to you? Why is it important to you? What drives you to want to do that thing? And you can kind of see how important it is for you to keep recommitting. And without this dialogue, it's going to be extremely hard to be consistent when you're being self-deceptive. You have to trust yourself, and trust also happens with honesty. And the last thing I wanted to mention with being consistent is kind of having to plan to be consistent. this is to say that I don't believe consistency comes naturally. I think we need to have levels of self awareness in order to be consistent, which is why I did mention like the openness is needed. But planning to be consistent is a whole other thing. There are going to be things in your life, circumstances, like, for example, of things that you already are. Like, if you are a mother, if you are or have some form of other commitment that obligates your time to other people, whether it's like your job and stuff like that. And then if you have countless relationships, it's so unpredictable, and your days are very unpredictable for that reason. So consistency takes planning, because you also need to learn, okay, let's say I'm going to take in the example of creating. I'm going to use writing as the example. Let's say you want to write 500 words a day. Or you want to, actually, I'd rather use a time of day for this example. So let's say you want to write every day from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. There are so many unexpected things that can happen in that time. Like, let's say that time is your regular break hours. Your lunch break is not exactly noon. It's 2 to 3, and that's when you usually want to write. Let's say there's an emergency in the office, and you have to switch that around, that you can't write 2 to 3. You have to plan to shift out your time. So if, let's say, something unexpected happens during your writing time, but you still want to commit to writing an hour a day, is it possible for you to replace that hour with, like, let's say you usually go home and watch television for 2 hours. Can you use one of those hours to instead commit again to writing? Or maybe you can write, let's say your commute is like 45 minutes. Can you write while you're commuting? And then just take extra 15 minutes from your TV time to finish up to equal out the hour of the day. Or let's say it's the weekend and someone unexpected shows up for a visit. Someone is in town, and they want to see you, but you didn't know they were coming, but it was a last minute thing, and there's someone important to you and you want to see them too, but the time they have available to see you is during your scheduled writing time. You can set the boundary and still spend time with that person. You can say, like, okay, I do want to hang out with you. I do want to spend time with you. So how about from 2 to 3, we can be at a coffee shop, and then after 3, we could go to whatever place and meet up with other people and have like a quiet time for ourselves. And that could be a thing. Or you can set the boundary of you want to meet up later, but if that's the only time available, you can compromise and still write. Or if you're taking public transportation, you can write on the way to meet them. Or if you find out and you have some time beforehand, you can work on writing an hour and just take the time to get ready quicker in the day. So all this to say that unexpected things does happen. Sometimes the unexpected things aren't within you. It's harder to navigate, but I do think once you understand, like, okay, unexpected things might happen, then you can figure out what your boundaries would look like, or how you would improvise, or what can you switch around to still achieve those goals. But if the thing that happens is within you, let's say you have low energy levels or brain fog or something, still write, but it doesn't have to be good. Or you can do another process within your writing. Like, maybe what you're writing takes research, and if you can't think, you can still do something to contribute to the writing. Maybe you need more background. Like, let's say you're writing a story that takes place in Spain. Maybe you need more facts and locations about Spain, and then you can take down notes and jot down facts is still creating, is still adding to your writing process. It's still technically writing during that time, but it's a different format of writing. You're not necessarily making new ideas. That's true. But you're looking for facts. You are looking for something that can contribute to the story. And you can figure it out. And I know this is a lot of rambling. Because truthfully, I didn't know how else to show up. I am recording this. I am kind of sleep deprived. I didn't get that well sleep last night, but I wanted to take the opportunity to work ahead because I also know there's probably going to be a lot of unexpected occurrences within July. And even the last week of June is probably going to be very hectic for me. So I wanted to make sure I commit by either doing it in advance or figure out a new time to record. So sorry if this is a lot of rambling. Sometimes with my thoughts, I do get very incohesive, but with that being said, that is all for the episode, and let's get into the card pull. So for today's episode, I used the Wild Unknown Pocket Animal Spirit by Kim Kranz. And the card I pulled while researching was the snake. So for the snake, it says guardian of unawakened magic and creative potential. The snake is a symbol of our highest potential. It is said that Shakti, our creative life force, lies dormant at the base of our spine in the form of a coiled snake. Regardless of whether this image rings true for you, it's well worth considering the amount of unawakened or untapped potential within. What would life look like if you woke it up? How can you stir it from slumber? An experienced yoga or meditation teacher can lead the way. Make haste. The snake card appears when there is no more time to waste. When in balance, prosperous, creative, charismatic. When out of balance, starts and stops many things. To bring into balance, Kundalini yoga meditation. So I feel like this card is very fitting because when out of balance, it did mention starting and stopping many things. And with consistency, that's what it is. It prevents you from that start and stop. And I do think that as it mentions meditation, it means to bring in awareness, which I talked about briefly in one of the segments about the importance of having awareness, having openness in that dialogue. Meditation, when I did do it, did help with clarity. And I do want to get back into a meditation practice. And there's just so many forms of meditation. Yes, I do feel like that card was well resonated. So if you want to try meditating, try yoga, try anything that would help you bring into awareness of your thoughts, your feelings, and all these behind the scenes, more mental state of things. I do think consistency has many layers, and to unravel them, unravel why you start and why you stop, unravel why you're actually trying to be consistent in something, whether it's because you think you need to be consistent in that thing or because you feel like it would actually change your life to be consistent, that's the thing. But you have to understand your reasoning, understand yourself, and have self-awareness about your life, your situation, and that is the only true way to be consistent. Know yourself, know your surroundings, know your situation, and know what keeps you going. So, to end off, what am I grateful for? Right now, I am grateful for the basics, just having a home, having a roof over my head, because I do think sometimes when we express gratitude, we kind of forget, like, the things that seem so natural to us. Having a home, no matter how big or small it is, just simply having a place to retreat to, I think is a very important thing to be grateful for. So I'm just going to say that. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, please don't hesitate to check out my YouTube channel. And remember to follow the podcast. It would mean the world to me. Share it if you enjoyed the episode. And I will talk to you next time. Okay, bye.